Here, how anti-abortion rights movement took down Roe. I know the audio can be heard twice.
On the air with breaking news from the Supreme Court, the justices handing down the highly anticipated ruling on abortion.
In this historic decision, the Supreme Court has now overturned Roe v. Wade.
The landmark decision ended constitutional protections for abortion that had been in place for nearly 50 years.
The court's 3 liberal justices dissented, writing, quote, "with sorrow for this court, but more for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection."
For the last 7 months, we've been looking into the anti-abortion rights movement to try to understand how they've gotten to this point of overturning Roe v. Wade through a case called Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. We revealed their years-long strategy to pull this off, their playbook, what's next on their agenda, and most importantly, what this will mean for the millions of people at the center of this issue.
My name is Kaya, and I'm here today at the Planned Parenthood for a surgical abortion. I'm kind of nervous, scared, and also not having the support with me sucks. But, you know, trying to make the best decision for myself and for the baby itself.
Kaya is 18 years old, and she's struggling with an unintended pregnancy. She's 12 weeks along.
Hello.
Hi. Dr. Iman El-Sadin is the medical director for Planned Parenthood's Great Plains region. Kaya is one of 50 patients she's seeing today, and one of tens of millions of women who could lose access to abortion care.
We're just going to ask you a series of questions that are required by the state of Kansas when you're getting an abortion. Are you going to want to know how far along you are based on our ultrasound?
No.
Okay. And will you want to see the ultrasound image?
No.
Will you want to receive a physical copy of the ultrasound image?
No.
Do you want to know if you have a multiple pregnancy, like twins, triplets?
No.
Why did you decide to terminate your pregnancy?
Because I knew that I couldn't give a life that was deserved. And also I was just I'm too young. I know that there are single parents and young mothers out there who have done it and can do it and are fully capable, but that's just not my situation.
There are a lot of states that are outlawing abortion right now. Kansas is kind of in the middle of this sort of sea of red. And
There are people who literally can't get like arthritis medication right now because some certain blood thinners that you need for survival or for comfort or for existing are also considered, drugs that can cause a miscarriage. It's awesome. Great stuff. I mean, really cool stuff. But hey, laws are laws, right? Maybe chatters will say, well, she's not white enough for me. I don't know. She still has the 1 drop rule in her, so maybe I can't see the humanity in this circumstance.
And I wonder how your life would be different if you couldn't terminate your pregnancy.
I would not be able to maintain a job and work and take care of a baby full time. I would probably ultimately...
All right, there was a callback to the fucking Brittany Griner situation because people refused to understand how fucking disgusting they were behaving.
give the baby up for adoption. There would be a piece of me out in this world that is just somewhere. Mm-hmm. And that was devastating for me. I couldn't, that's why I'm here. I can't do that.
Was this an easy decision for you?
Oh no. Oh, hell no. This was a very hard decision for me. I cried for weeks. After I saw the sonogram, I cried instantly seeing the sonogram because my heart was filled with love, but also with fear and just hopelessness. And it was rough. It was very rough because I would never see myself in this position, ever, ever. I had always been super careful. and it just happened.
The anti-abortion rights movement has been quietly laying the groundwork to outlaw it. At least 10 states have already enacted bans. So for millions of women across the South and Midwest, Kansas is one of the closest states that still has legal abortion care. That could soon change. In August, voters will decide whether to reverse a state constitutional protection that would open the door to criminalizing abortion.
For a lot of people, Kansas is sort of the last place they can go to access this care. Are you concerned that abortion could be outlawed here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about that every day. And that could be catastrophic.
How do you expect your clinic will be affected in coming months?
There's going to be kind of this displacement that happens when these very populous areas don't have access to what I consider basic health care. We'll do as much planning as we can, but this clinic has the capacity to see a certain amount of people. It's not nearly going to be enough.
What are pregnant people facing unplanned pregnancies going to do in the South, in the Midwest, who don't have access?
We're looking at a situation where those people won't be able to access it, and then you have this like state-mandated forced pregnancy, forced birth situation. I mean, I don't see how the maternal mortality rate isn't affected by this. When you don't allow people that are very sick or have dangerous pregnancies to have the option of having an abortion in order to maintain their health or save their life, you're going to end up with more complicated pregnancies, higher infant morbidity and mortality, and higher maternal morbidity and mortality. That's been proven time and time again.
Control over women is what they want! Control over women is what they want! Furious women is what they've got! Furious women is what they got!
For years, one powerful Christian legal organization has been meticulously planning a strategy to overturn Roe v. Wade.
With God's help, we don't just stand, we win.
Alliance Defending Freedom, or ADF, has been involved in 67 Supreme Court victories and single-handedly won more than a dozen, mostly related to religious freedom, like fighting for prayer in public schools and to make it legal for businesses to discriminate against same-sex couples. In cases like Dobbs, which the Supreme Court just ruled on, this is how ADF works. First, they identify like-minded legislators, attorneys general, and governors. Then, they write bills for those lawmakers to tweak and introduce. They offer free legal advice. If the law is challenged, ADF helps defend it in court. If they lose, they appeal. And eventually, they petition the Supreme Court. This is exactly what they did with the state of Mississippi in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. In short, their plan worked.
It's just so sad that this is what constitutes for democracy, like taking advantage of the lack of interest from our governing bodies to actually do their job on their own, and creating these fucking lobbying groups to write legislation, basically doing their jobs for them. And then motherfuckers be like, well, fight fire with fire, do your own. It's like, it's so stupid. It shouldn't have to be that way. I despise this.
I'm looking forward to this next presentation by Denise Harley. So she's Senior Counsel for Alliance for Defending Freedom. Thanks for your expertise.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited that we do have this connection with these faith institutions. The important thing is the message and the culture of the sanctity of life. And I totally believe when abortion is no longer mandated, we are going to start to wake up and realize that we were in a collective veil of ignorance in this nation.
ADF senior attorney Denise Harley agreed to sit down for a rare interview. She leads all of ADF's work involving abortion.
ADF and your colleagues in the movement have done what many people thought would be impossible for the last 50 years. How have you done it?
Well, we give the credit and glory to God, frankly. We are a faith-based nonprofit, and what we've seen is something that we probably never could have imagined.
So what was ADF's role in this Dobbs case?
So we worked very closely with Mississippi from the very beginning, including we had a hand in crafting the legislation of the 15-week bill, coordinating, advising them during the pendency of the litigation, and then at the Supreme Court, we have been, alongside them all the way, offering just as much help as we possibly can.
Would you consider yourselves co-counsel in this case?
So Denise has already said as much as she can possibly say about our involvement, so
Okay.
we really can't address any more questions.
Okay, but just to clarify, did you all write the arguments at the center of this case?
So again, we really can't address anything having to do with like our involvement past what Denise has already addressed.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Could you speak to that, strategy of baiting the opposition, abortion providers to, sue the state for, what they see as an unconstitutional law?
You can get to the Supreme Court by losing or winning. Okay, so if you lose, you get the opportunity to appeal. If you
Thank you, Mosto, for the 10 gifted subs. I bet you she's had at least 2 abortions. I don't know, man. I don't think she's ever fucked. It is wild that a person who says God is on us, like God is with us all the way, can like actually write legislation in this country, though. That is truly fucking terrifying when you think about it. It just affected America either. Here in Australia, abortion was only made legal in the last decade. And in one state just last year. Now this is all going down in the USA. There's a big conservative movement against abortion again. Sad. Yeah.
you lose from a federal trial court, then you can appeal to the federal appellate court. If you lose in the federal court of appeal, you can petition to the Supreme Court. That's what Mississippi did in this case.
I think there are a lot of people in this country who have woken up in the last few weeks and said, what is happening? There are states across the country that are passing these bans, including complete bans. How orchestrated has that effort been?
States are now saying, we finally have the ability to protect unborn life, to protect maternal health, to get rid of this gruesome procedure that we believe has been
I did run the ad break 30 minutes ago because I forgot to run it at the top of the hour, so I'm running it now at the top of the hour as well.
people and absolutely taking innocent human lives to the tune of hundreds of thousands a year.
I wonder if, well-organized, well-funded Christian legal organizations like ADF, writing legislation, sharing that template legislation in states across the country, offering free legal services, defending that legislation in court. I wonder if that's democratic.
I guess I'm not following your question of what would not be democratic about the whole idea and the basis of America. We have free speech, we have freedom of religion, we have the freedom of conscience to have beliefs, to act on those beliefs, to share those beliefs, to assemble with people who agree with us.
It's not lawmakers in these cases who are writing the laws, and so I think there are a lot of people who feel like there are organizations like ADF that have more influence than really voters do. And in this case, about what women are and are not able to do with their bodies.
Oh, well, goodness gracious. This is what all interest groups would try to do and aspire to do as much as.
I love when people like this have made it their lives mission to like ruin other human beings' lives and like take away their bodily autonomy. Turn around and have the gall, the audacity to claim that they are doing this on the basis of freedom. Republicans are so fucking good at recentering their horrifyingly oppressive agenda into something that is supposedly righteous, good, justifiable, moral, incredibly fucked up.
As possible. ACLU, Planned Parenthood, NARAL do this all the time. That's what the First Amendment allows.
Of course, there are a lot of women who would argue, what about my freedom to make medical decisions with my doctor about my own body?
Well, I would say abortion is not healthcare. It is, it's a procedure that takes a human life. That was never a constitutional or fundamental concept that a woman or a father or a doctor or anyone would be able to take an innocent human life. It's definitely not one of our constitutional rights.
I think people wonder why, particularly when these things aren't public, these are private meetings, why these groups should be able to, dictate the lives of millions of women when it comes to this decision.
I mean,
What about separation of church and state? How can they be a faith-based organization and affect policy so much? What are you saying? I mean, I'm sorry. Let me answer your question by saying, the fuck? Separation of church and state is not a real concept. What separation of church and state? We live in America, brother. This is a Judeo-Christian nation. You know what I mean? At every single point of this country's existence, we have had Christianity utilized as a galvanizing force, as an organizing force, oftentimes for justifying white supremacist ideals. It's not surprising. They're just using religion as a way to motivate the dumbass people in the masses to do whatever the fuck they want to do.
IVF doesn't get to dictate anything. Our vision for a healthy America is that abortion is unthinkable and unnecessary.
Unthinkable.
After the Supreme Court announced their decision, ADF confirmed they were in fact on Mississippi's legal team and wrote the arguments at the center of the Dobbs case. On the state level, ADF's playbook only works if they have solid relationships with lawmakers across the country.
Now that Roe has been overturned, the power goes back to the states. But in order to understand what
Preachers in the 1930s would also start labor disputes and help organize strikes. Man, I know, okay? And I also have talked about liberation theology and its role in the abolition movement. Like, I know, I understand that. I know. That's why I said in the majority of instances, it's been used to uphold and defend white supremacy. There is, of course, that's why it's a weapon. Religion is a weapon, just like any other kind of ideology.
what's happening in state legislatures across the country, you have to come to the epicenter, which is the Texas state capitol.
Texas didn't wait for the Supreme Court's ruling on Dobbs. The state made headlines in September when they passed Senate Bill 8, known as the Texas Heartbeat Act, or SB 8. The law gives civilians the power to sue anyone who helps a woman get an abortion. State Senator Brian Hughes authored the bill.
I really wish all the fucking band chatters would have stuck through for this one. I want to know. I want to know so bad. I can't even give up. I want to know so bad how they feel about this. Like how that pairs with their understanding of the world of like laws are laws. Sorry. Like I wish we almost hadn't banned all those fucking sick freaks so they could like look at this and see that like white women were being punished in this circumstance as well. White women that look like their girlfriends, white women that look like their sisters and their moms and stuff, so they could finally recognize the humanity of the people that were being oppressed by such laws. And maybe only then would they be like, well, I guess laws are not a substitute for morality in this circumstance.
Now been used as a model by more than a dozen other states. Hughes agreed to show us which states have already or are likely to outlaw abortion. 13 of those states have trigger bans that can now be enforced since the court's ruling triggered them last week.
Many of these states, like Texas, had pre-Roe statutes that stopped abortion except to save the life of the mother. So they'll come back into effect. And of course, many states have also passed trigger laws. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, of course, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Missouri, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia. The chances are pretty high. Iowa, of course. I want to say Wisconsin as well. I think Michigan is also on the list, isn't it? Indiana, and the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Montana, Idaho.
So what we're seeing now is that more than half the country is certain or likely to ban abortion or attempt to ban abortion basically overnight.
That's right. That's exactly right.
What happened in Texas can help explain what's now happening in other states. After SB 8 passed last September, abortions in Texas dropped by 60%. Since then, there have been roughly 3,000 fewer abortions per month. Thousands of women are leaving the state for care. Others have no choice but to go through with their pregnancies.
Did you consult with any women, any moms while drafting this bill?
Oh, yes, we certainly did. In fact, we've heard testimony from women really all across the spectrum. Some women who have chosen life and are glad they did. Some women who made the choice to have an abortion or are dealing with that.
I wonder more about the moms who have comorbidities, who are living in poverty,
yes,
who could die and do die during pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum. Did you consult with them?
Speaking about the mother's health, I want to be clear. In Texas, if there's a risk to her life or to her health, then there's an exception. So we've had that in Texas for a long time, and that's still in place with the heartbeat law.
I think it's just important to note, though, oftentimes the mother's life is at risk well beyond the point that they can have an abortion while they're in childbirth and postpartum. You know, even months after giving birth, women can die from complications with pregnancy and delivery.
And so you're talking about a condition that the doctors aren't able to detect.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to argue. I want to understand. I want to follow what you're talking about.
No, my point is this. Maternal mortality is
yes,
a massive problem in Texas.
Yes.
You're 43 on the list of states when it comes to that issue. For many people, forcing them to go through with a pregnancy and with childbirth
can put their life at risk.
The people of Texas feel strongly that that little baby growing inside her mother's womb is a human being worthy of protection. And so we set out to protect the little baby's life while we love and support and respect the mothers during and after the baby comes.
During the women's rights movement of the 1960s, the Supreme Court ruled in Griswold v. Connecticut that the Constitution protected the right to privacy as it relates to birth control. This laid the groundwork for Roe v. Wade. And then 8 years later, justices decided abortion was also implicit in that right.
January 22nd, 1973 will stand out as one of the great days for freedom and free choice.
At the same time, in the early 70s, the country's most famous anti-feminist advocate, Phyllis Schlafly, and her grassroots organizers ensured the Equal Rights Amendment was blocked.
When you make the laws apply equally to men and women, you end up taking away many of the rights that women now have.
Bro, imagine being an activist for less freedom. Dude, what do you mean? That's like you just made fun of every conservative activist. Like you just described like every single advocacy group for conservative values. That's how it is. It's just, you just described the entire party, the entire movement, the entire ideology.
The ERA would have given women equal rights in the Constitution. It would have also cemented their right to abortion.
You're listening to K-Talk Radio, KBJA 1640 AM, bringing you live, local, two-way talk.
Good morning, this is Gal Rosica at K-Talk Radio. I'm here with Marianne Christensen and Mary Taylor, and we are going to be talking today about something great and exciting, of course, and that is the overturn of Roe versus Wade.
Dog, what the fuck? Yo, your shit's not capable of having a child, dude. I'm just saying, like, it's why are you still riding for this, bro? Why are you still riding with your dusty ass, dude? What the fuck? She's like, oh, I'm so excited. Women are going to be forcibly carrying pregnancies to term. It's like, grandma, what do you want? 6 more grandchildren that are not going to call your dusty ass? Is that what it is? Is that what you want? Shut the fuck up, grandma.
One of Schlafly's main deputies was Gail Ruzicka. She's been wielding power in Utah politics and beyond for decades. Gail had a hand in writing the abortion ban that was just enacted in Utah. Her main goal for the last 50 years? Do whatever possible to overturn Roe v. Wade.
We're not through fighting because the other side will continue to try to make abortion legal.
Well, Gail, they really are talking about that already. We've got to stay on high alert. One of the things that I am hearing is that the pro-choice side is complaining that the rape exception should not have to require a police report.
If there doesn't need to be a police report, then we are just protecting perpetrators.
Oh my God. Dude, that is insane. The reason why there can't be a police report is because in so many of the circumstances, the police are notoriously bad at dealing with rape kits. There's a rape kit backlog, and a conviction on top of that. Demanding a conviction is going to mean that you can't get a fucking abortion anyway. You're done. You're trapped.
That's the first place they're going to start trying to chip away at our trigger bill, and we need to stand our ground on that.
The fight will never be over because, you know, the fight for life never ends.
What do you remember about when the Supreme Court announced their decision on Roe v. Wade?
It was a shock. It was a shock when it happened. And then it was, everybody just kind of said, now what do we do?
So it seems like that Supreme Court decision really fueled the movement.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we're bored now. Now we just got to push for more. We already watched this, Hassan? No, we didn't.
Absolutely. For me, it started with that. I suddenly had to start figuring out, what can I do? What can I do to make a difference on this? How can we stop this from happening? There's got to be something we can do, and we got to do it fast. Never in a million years did I think, you know, it's going to be 50 years from now before we have a chance to stop this.
How has the pro-life movement been so successful?
One legislator.
I wonder what happens when you make a business out of crafting legislation. Almost seems like you got to keep it going if you want a livelihood. Oh, 100%. But there's always plenty of new things that they can take on. Now they can move on to criminalizing abortion at the federal level, make that a priority, you know what I mean?
One time was speaking to a group and I was in the audience and he acknowledged that I was there and he says, when I get there in the morning, she's already there, and when I leave at night, she's still there. But she does change her clothes, so I know she went home. And that really is who we are. It's not just me. And we try to all work together. And the big thing is trust. And trust and not caring who gets the credit.
I wonder how Alliance Defending Freedom ADF has helped with that work.
Oh, I love ADF. They're so helpful. I've never called them for anything on this issue that they haven't been right there with answers. What can we do to help?
And they're very good at it.
And they're very good at it.
What do you make of the younger generation now leading parts of the movement who are relying more on social media or making, polished videos that go online and get millions of views?
It's wonderful. The only thing I always tell everybody is don't just get on there and talk about the issue and then do nothing. You have to do something.
What, bro? Take matters in your own hands. You have to do something, dude. You have to go to a fucking abortion clinic and like bully like a 14-year-old rape victim, Do something, anything, Go out there, get yourself out there, get some fresh air, harass some people.
Gonna raise it. 1, 2, 3. Raise your
Millennials and Gen Zers are now all over Instagram and TikTok, racking up views by pushing anti-abortion messaging through a much younger lens.
Saying that a woman won't be as successful if she has a child is actually pretty misogynistic and degrading.
I don't know what to say. I'm done.
You want a culture that minds their own business when innocent human beings are being killed? Honestly, that sounds like something slave owners would have said so proudly.
In the last several years, they've framed that messaging with leftist language, feminism, science, human rights.
It is the sexual revolution and the abortion movements, both largely driven by men, that have waged the real war on women.
Women, we weren't made to want to kill, to destroy. We were made to fiercely fight, to protect. That is authentic feminism, a feminism that demands true equality under the law for all people, born and preborn.
Lila Rose became a national figure after she filmed undercover at several abortion clinics and posted the videos online. They went viral.
I want to terminate this pregnancy because of the gender.
Like I said, because don't tell us that. We don't want to know.
After Planned Parenthood threatened legal action, accusing Rose of deceptively editing footage, which she denies, Rose sought the help of ADF, and ADF saw an opportunity. They backed her legally and gave her media training.
I wonder if I could just I don't know, if I could hit myself in the head hard enough, maybe I could break my brain so that this kind of stuff doesn't bother me as much anymore. Look at this fucking piece of shit, the smile on her fucking face when she's on television. These are demons, dude. These are literally fucking demons, dude. Absolutely. Nothing but insanity, dude. Insanity. Capitalism rewards some of the most horrific pieces of shit in the absolute fucking worst ways, dude. Here, go ahead. You're motivated by spite. Well, your spiteful attitude happens to correspond to our get out to vote mechanism that we've decided to use upon the white evangelical Protestants. So let's fucking shape you into the media animal and put you on every fucking broadcast, including Bill O'Reilly, who's directly responsible for the murder of a doctor that used to provide abortions.
And a pro-life star was born.
Why do you do this?
Well, it's my passion. It's a group of students and we do this work together to investigate Planned Parenthood and hold them accountable for these crimes. The science is conclusive here. Biology is clear here. Human life begins in the womb. It's possible.
Dude, biology and then, but she technically did say human life begins in the womb, and she didn't actually have the audacity to say human life begins at conception. Because there is no biological basis for that argument. That's not a real thing. Bill O'Reilly did what? Bill O'Reilly is directly responsible for the execution, the murder of a doctor that he vilified on his broadcast and even talked about how he would kill him if he had the opportunity in a video game. Dr. Tiller.
To make our country and our world pro-life.
Rose has become a sort of
he called him Tiller, baby killer.
Manager-in-chief for the anti-abortion rights movement through her media company, Live Action.
No, he literally just said he would kill him, not in a video game. Yeah, no, he did. He did say he'd kill him if he had the opportunity. But then quickly said, I don't know. You really can't say those things.
Our following is now nearing 6 million combined, and our view count is, I think, at over 1.5 billion now, combined video views.
That's a huge amount of people.
It's a huge amount of people.
And I just wonder if there's a sort of strategy style language that you're using that really speaks to our generation and younger.
Social media is a really powerful engine, and it can be a powerful engine for good or for bad. But when you combine it with facts and creative abilities to make it really attractive for people so they can really understand it, human interest stories, I think that's a winning combination.
Do you have a sense of how many minds you've changed? People who were going to pursue an abortion?
So it's really exciting. Our most engaged followers are teen and young 20 women, like 18 to 24 women. And when we survey them, 38% of our last surveyed group said that their minds were changed on abortion.
It's not lost on you that the other side's criticism of you is that you're misleading, that you spread misinformation. What's your response to that?
Yeah, the misinformation is coming from the pro-abortion side. That's lying about the humanity of the child. That's lying to
The humanity of the child, dude.
women and telling them that violence against a family member is empowerment for them. That's saying that you can't do better than abortion, that's what you're gonna have to do if you wanna pursue your dreams.
I'm interested to know like what you would say about women who, of whom there are many in our country, who got an abortion and were empowered by it and don't regret their decision.
Well, there's always gonna be stories that people will tell themselves to justify what they did. And I think that's one of the really sad parts of the pro-abortion movement is when they really like stuff the pain or the hurt down because women feel like they have to walk around and say like, I'm glad I had my abortion.
Maybe you're not giving women enough credit for making their own decision and not being influenced by anyone and being empowered by that decision. I mean, do you feel like you're giving women enough credit?
I think a lot of the women and the thousands of women that we've interviewed or surveyed or talked to over the years, the common theme when faced with a pregnancy where they felt like they had to have an abortion is pressure. It's fear. It's feeling like they have to do this.
A recent UCSF study showed that 5 years after having an abortion, more than 95% of women said it was the right.
What a shocker that the person advocating to take bodily autonomy away from women also quite literally just said, women don't know what they think. Women don't be knowing things, okay? Women be shopping. They don't know. They want an abortion. They've been duped. They've been manipulated. Like, or maybe they, maybe they don't feel that way. Maybe they are just like fully grown adults who are perfectly capable of crafting ideas and making choices on their own body. I don't know. Maybe.
Right decision for them.
Yeah. Women don't know things unless it's me. I know things. I'm the only woman who knows things, and I know it for other women too. Why? Because I'm guided by a patriarchal understanding of what women can and can't do and should and shouldn't do to their own bodies.
In 2019, there were more than 300,000 abortions in the 26 states that have or are likely to outlaw abortion imminently. For the thousands of people who will be forced to carry out their pregnancies, the anti-abortion rights movement says there's a catch-all solution: pregnancy resource centers, or PRCs, like this one. PRCs are typically funded by anti-abortion rights advocates. When PRCs or crisis pregnancy centers, both of which have been accused of spreading misinformation and persuading women away from abortion, have faced legal turmoil, ADF has represented them in court.
How are you going to learn to be a good mom? By following through with my therapy and learning from my doctors.
This is Courtney Barker. She considered abortion in her first trimester, but decided to research adoption instead.
So what did we talk about today? That there is actually resources here in this program for adoption, that there's families actually waiting.
So this is called a life book, and it's just them sharing their life with you. Their kids, why they're adopting, what's important to them.
The cottage provides food, mental health services, job training, and a pathway to adoption.
What would you look for if you were looking through these books?
Probably someone like Alex and Stacy that are young. Looks like they're really compatible. It's a big family right there.
That's a big family.
See, that would be perfect,
The cottage is also a maternity home where she and other mothers with unplanned pregnancies live. Once their residents give birth, they offer formula, diapers, and a bassinet, for up to a year. While this is a lifeline for those.
Oh, dude, by the way, this was actually, okay, this is actually really fucked up, but Amber Lee Frost talked about this a little bit. And it is a truly interesting part of this dynamic that it is a blind spot for me as a man. But a lot of these like family crisis centers and shit are straight up, unfortunately, some of the more adequately funded facilities for getting reproductive health services. So she was literally talking about like, hey, sometimes women knowing full well that they want to get an abortion will go in there just to get an ultrasound for free because they know they can get that there and be like, yeah, I'm totally not going to have an abortion. Or that they are actually adoption fronts. And while that is horrifying in many respects, horrifying to like say to you know, guide women away from getting this medical procedure so that they can, you know, put their babies out for adoption, okay? Some people do take advantage of that because at the very least, they have their medical care of giving a pregnancy or carrying a pregnancy to term if they do truly want it. This is one of the only places where they can do that for free. So think about how fucked up that is in America. Where like, I mean, it's like it's like a weird fucked up form of human trafficking almost. Utilizing people who are victims of sexual assault or people who are victims of the dire socioeconomic constraints that they are that they're forced into as a way to pump out baby mills, yeah, like a fucking puppy mill. And what's really messed up about it overall, what's really messed up about these facilities overall is like they would not fucking exist. Yeah, no, I'm talking about Chapo. Yes, that's why I said Amber talked about this on Chapo, and she brought up a blind spot for me that I had not considered, that I did not know about. That there is a weird, in all that darkness, there's a weird, additionally dark glimmer that like the family crisis centers straight up. Wait, what? My latest IG story made it on the file. Okay, come on.
Going to go out tonight by seeing over this last 4th of July weekend. And
stop, dude.
Those who have access, there are many more moms.
Coming from a woman who knows better than every other woman, please speak over us. Talking to me? Or are you talking to the other woman? Talk over women. Don't be afraid to speak over women. What? She just really discredited all those women's life-altering decisions offhandedly? Oh, yeah. No. She's talking about this other fucking anti-abortion psycho who is, like, speaking over
moms who do not receive the resources they need. Several years ago, Courtney was diagnosed with bipolar schizophrenia. She self-medicated with meth, cocaine, and alcohol. And before landing at the cottage, she was homeless. She's now in recovery.
Mental health is something that I think is hard for a lot of people to talk about, even though it's really common. Are you open to talking about some of those challenges?
What did Amber say on Chapo? What I just described, that like a lot of women use these facilities because these facilities are the only fucking adequate reproductive health care that they can get. Whether it is because they want to get a fucking free ultrasound out of the way before they end up getting an abortion, or because they literally are like, all right, well, you know, at least I can go and like, you know, give this child, if I do carry this pregnancy to term, I can do it for free here. And on top of that, I will be able to offer a better future for this child because they have like an adoption service planned. An adoption service that is already like, assigned to it. Yeah, the only way she could get help for her substance abuse is to be a baby incubator. Exactly. My friend lost her insurance. She got her ultrasounds at those pregnancy centers because she couldn't afford to. And they did it for free until she got another job. It's a real thing. Yeah. Crisis centers literally position themselves near abortion providers to trick women. These people literally trick women into waiting too long to have an abortion. They pretend to be doctors. They should be in fucking prison. There's so many more of them. No, I know. They should not exist. The really sad part is that, like, because there is no free health care and because the cost of giving birth is so fucking high in this goddamn country, that, like, this is seen as an alternative, a viable alternative. And some use it as a viable alternative. Some get housing out of it. Some get fucking, addiction therapy treatments out of it. You know, they're basically selling off their body as a baby incubator and selling off the potential of a child or having a child to give to some fucking Christian psycho family, okay, that is working with the Family Crisis Center as an opportunity to survive and find a better life for themselves, which is so fucked up. Exactly, broodmare shit.
We've had
Yeah, actually, yeah, I would like to.
What are...
Yeah, kind of like signing up for the Army. Oh, you want to study? Here, go get shot at for a few years, and then you can go to college almost free. Exactly. In America, we don't have the amenities that other countries have already provided to all their citizens unconditionally. So we have to literally sell our body and our soul to these like horrifying institutions, specifically so that we can get those like rights and amenities and liberties that other countries and their citizens take for granted.
What are some of the symptoms that you experience?
My erratic behavior. I suffer with anxiety a lot. My behavior would have acted out in the past. I'm now dealing with that and looking for other coping skills, other techniques to express correctly.
When the baby's here, is there any part of you that worries that like your symptoms of bipolar and schizophrenia may resurface or that you'll relapse in some way?
Yeah, I worry about that a lot. I was like sleeping on a park bench a year ago, 6 months ago, and I want to be a soccer mom all of a sudden. Like, mentally, that doesn't make sense to me. So there's just a lot of emotional preparations.
The number of people who need support, like Courtney, will likely increase dramatically. Oklahoma recently passed a near total ban that criminalizes performing an abortion at any stage of pregnancy. Far more women will now likely be forced to give birth, often at the most vulnerable time in their life. Lana Smith, executive director of the cottage, is preparing for that influx.
There's always going to be women who are hurting and find themselves pregnant and need help, no matter what the laws are. And so we are headed to our new maternity home. It's on about 100 acres on a ranch.
What are the real life challenges that these women are facing?
Yes, real life challenges.
Yeah, Broodmare Ranch, baby farm. Straight up, exactly what it is.
All of our, obviously, clients who live in our maternity home were homeless before and living on the streets, right, under, in an alley or underneath a highway. I mean, yeah, we've seen them everywhere. If they're not homeless, they're bouncing from friend to friend's couch and usually doing things, giving things that, you know, they normally wouldn't want to do, but they have to because...
Like prostitution?
Like prostitution, anything, you know, selling drugs for someone, doing things that they wouldn't want to do, but they feel like, I have to do this because I have to have a roof over my head, I have to have food to eat, I have to have some type of safety.
This is my new room. This is where I'm going to be sleeping, and then the baby's bed's going to be right there. I'm going to be keeping all my baby stuff in here. So before I moved in, I decided that I was going to name him Sam. They had this, which I think is just a sign from the gods. Yeah.
If you didn't have help from these organizations, where would you be?
I mean, I would be in a really bad place.
Is there any part of you that's still considering adoption?
Yeah, I mean, there was, but I kind of really just got over that.
So have you made your decision?
Yeah, I'm going to keep him.
Wow.
Yeah, he's going to be mine. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of awesome that I get to have that feeling and I get to realize that it is a choice and it is an appropriate one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to open first? All right. This is your first baby. It's such an incredible, life-changing event. You will be an amazing mama. Wish you all the best. Love and always. I'm going to cry.
I know, me too. With this new law, you know, inevitably there are going to be a lot more women in need.
Yes.
That's expensive.
Yes.
How will you afford to serve them?
All of our funding is donor and grant funded. We've talked to legislators, we've talked to state representatives, and talked to them about ways that it could change in the future. We are busy, but we can always take more moms. We can always expand our services and help in any way we can.
The Oklahoma legislature has allocated $3 million to supporting the 6,000 women facing unplanned pregnancies each year. Split evenly, this amounts to roughly $40 per mother per month. Add the thousands of more women who will now be forced to carry out pregnancies, it's not nearly enough. We're at the Oklahoma State Capitol to meet with Senator Nathan Dahm. He's written some of the strictest abortion laws in the country. What's clear is that these laws will create an incredible financial burden. What's unclear is who is going to pay for this.
Are there enough resources for these mothers, particularly women who would have tried to access abortion but now are unable to?
Yes, there are plenty of resources out there and available, and not only just from the resource side of the woman being able to care for the child if she chooses.
So how much public funding goes to these mothers in need?
I don't have the statistics on that. I mean, I can get you those specific numbers, but there's, like I said, there's not just public money that goes to it. There's also private resources.
Do you have a sense of how much it costs to raise a child in this state?
In Oklahoma, I mean, our cost of living is much less than a lot of other states, but it's not inexpensive for sure. But again, if the individual doesn't want to incur that expense and everything, there are adoption opportunities.
I guess I'm trying to understand, how you know that there's enough resources when you don't actually know how much it costs the mother to raise a baby.
Well, because with the pregnancy resource centers that I talk to, they have more than enough supplies that they are continually reaching out to, and they're proactively trying to give out their supplies and trying to help these mothers.
How do you measure that? I mean, you seem very confident that this won't be a problem, but there were nearly 5,000 abortions in this state in 2019. I mean, that is a lot of women who are going to be looking for alternative options. And for a lot of particularly low-income women, they're going to have to go through with these pregnancies.
We've had an increase in revenue and everything, so we can always, if there is that increased need through the public side of things, we have that option and that flexibility.
You know, one of the grossest things, once again, Chapo talked about this as well, but one of the grossest things I've seen as well in the past month since this decision came down, especially in the past couple of weeks, is what the New York Times and all these other liberal outlets are doing, which is just taking for granted that this is, the fight for Roe v. Wade is over, and that we should just move forward by I don't know, talking about how maybe conservatives will now pay for adequate health care. Maybe conservatives will pay for maternal care and shit like that. And it's it's so mind numbing because it's not happening. That's never going to happen. I've seen New York Times articles on this. I've seen Guardian articles on this where people are just now, they've basically moved beyond fighting, pushing back for Roe v. Wade or codifying Roe v. Wade. You know what I mean? And now basically writing these psychotic think pieces about how conservatives are finally going to have to, pay for adequate health care and pay for child safety nets.